Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good.
Good.
Well, I'm excited about this topic.
So am I.
It's something I've done a whole lot of research personally on, and then writing down everything that, like the talking points that I wanted to bring up and everything. I was like, this is really exciting.
Good. No, I agree. This is something that, like, just growing up as a kid, I didn't like the way that I viewed life, and so just how can I make life better? I've kind of just on my own figured out what to do, but to actually find out that there's this science like behind it. There's all these like motivational speeches, all these talks, all these educational videos. It was like, yes. So I am not crazy, and so what's fun is to see how a lot of what I just found out on my own and kind of experimented with my own actually is stuff that like people actually do and use, and it took some people quite a while to actually figure out, and so it's fun to think that 13, 14, 15-year-old me figured this out.
Yeah,
so
and some people never do.
That's true.
So,
that's true.
So the topic is, can our thoughts shape our reality? And so sounds like you think that it can.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. No, I am a firm believer that that our thoughts and the way we think can in fact shape our reality.
Yeah.
Just on personal experience in middle school, I feel like everybody's like awkward stage. You got puberty, you have girls growing boobs, and it's just a whole weird fiasco, and you're like, But I had lots of self-doubt. I didn't feel like anybody liked me or anybody wanted to really like be my friend, or girls didn't think that I was cute.
Yeah.
And that really sucked. Like, I often found myself being this like loner. However, I look back on it now and I don't ever know why I really thought that, because I always had friends. Like, I always walked with people like different classes, and the classes always had different friends, and so even though I had an abundance of friends, and you know, girls would talk to me, so obviously I was cute, right? I still thought that I didn't have friends and that I wasn't, and
so that's how you saw
your and so you know, you have basically the world showing me you do have friends, you are cute, but yet in my mental world I thought I didn't have friends, and I think that I was cute. And there's outlier things as to why I thought those things, but we won't get into that today. But I remember at one point I started high school. I was a freshman, and I was tired of the way that I felt. I always felt just worthless. I wasn't worth anything. And I think the wrestling season just started, and so I was out there working hard. I noticed that like the coaches were like, okay, good job. They wanted me, you know, doing all this stuff. But I think the biggest impact at that point was my dad. Growing up, my dad and I have always had a very special relationship. We were always like hip and hip whenever we could be. And he always told me, you can do whatever you set your mind to. At the time, I didn't believe that. I thought I was worthless and I had any friends, and nobody thought that I was cute.
Yeah, and that's just something people say.
It's like, oh, they're just being nice. They see this poor little wounded dove, and they want to help the wounded dove. But I looked at myself in the mirror for like 2 weeks straight, and I said, my name is Ammon fucking Williams, and I can do whatever the fuck I want to whenever I put my mind to it. At first, I didn't believe it. But after, I think like 4 or 5 days, I was like, okay, maybe this is true. But by the end of the 2 weeks, I was like, no, this is true. And just that right there, I think we talked about it in our last video, but that's cognitive.
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
CBT.
And so I did that on myself. But from that, just thinking that I could accomplish anything really changed my view, because now instead of, oh, I can't have friends, I'll never have friends, it was, I don't have friends, but I can. And it wasn't, oh, I'm cute, no one will ever like me. It's, I might not be cute, but I can be.
Yeah.
And then just going to school, after that, it was way different, because now I wasn't even like going in with this mindset to make friends. It was just like, I can have them. And at that point, then I started to recognize, wait a minute, in all my classes I have friends, like, and most of them are girls, and they do this whole like flutter eye at me, and then all of a sudden, my world changed.
Yeah.
It didn't change, but the way I viewed it changed. My thoughts changed, therefore my world changed.
Yeah. The possibilities.
Yeah, and
changed.
My social life got better. My grades got better. Wrestling got better. Instead of being there, nobody here likes me, or whatever. I'm here because, like, I'm full of energy and like to wrestle. It was now like, this is my team. You know, this is my math class. This is my history class. These are my friends. So though my physical world never changed, my mental one did, and because of that, my whole world changed.
Yeah.
And so because of that experience with it, I'm a firm believer that it actually works.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also agree. I think that absolutely your thoughts can change your reality. I've seen it happen in similar situations. I've had it happen for myself, and it's something that is ongoing. I think like changing negative behaviors or negative habits is something that it's not just, oh well, just think something different, you know, and it's done. Like, all right, you know, but you have to continually think something different. You know, a negative thought pops up, choose to think something else, choose to think something else over and over again. But yeah, in my research on for personal reasons, even everybody from biologists, scientists, geologists, even psychologists, life coaches, spiritual teachers, they all say the same thing. And of course, their reasons for that and their evidence for that is different, but the evidence does all point to the same thing, is that yes, our thoughts do influence our reality, and I think reality can throw people for a loop a little bit, because it's like you said, like the world around you didn't actually change. So it's not like you know, I think I don't know, the rose tree outside should make, I don't know,
apples,
plums instead. But and then it will, although metaphysically speaking, probably it could. I don't. It's possible, but that the, you know, maybe I don't like the rose tree, but then changing the way I think about it can make me have a different appreciation for it. And so that sort of thing. But the like biological Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's done a ton of research on this, and he is awesome if you want to look him up. Yeah,
actually, a couple of pages I have are of videos that I have watched. I think he is really good.
I mean, it's awesome, and so, and it's not just him, but a lot of scientists have shown, you know, our thoughts are influencing our biology, our chemicals inside our body, whether or not we heal from sicknesses, injuries, things like that. And so not only does that actually have a physical representation of our thought process, like people who generally don't expect to get well don't, and people who do expect to get well do. But then also the mental aspect of it, like the psychological, just being a happier person because that's what you expect. So
Joe Dispenza is good, and I agree. I think a big evidence that shows that your thoughts can help you heal, just get better, is the placebo. Just people take sugar pills all the time and think, oh, I'm being cured, when really it was just a mental thing. But also, I think what shows even more evidence is when people think they are sick, they get sick.
Right.
Like, it's crazy how just by thinking, oh, I think I am sick, and truly believing that, our body will then begin to act as if it is sick.
Right.
And that's our body, like, oh, we are sick, okay, let us like heal ourselves, let us get better. Like, okay, are we sick? Well, let us throw up, let's get whatever's sick out of us. So okay, that's not it, let's get runny noses, let's get
a fever.
You know, let's let's burn it off. Let's get sweats. Let's get all this stuff. Because even though you were never sick, you believed you were. Your brain told your body that you were. And like, if you can just think to get yourself sick, vice versa works. Like, you can think to get yourself better. Now, back to what you were saying, you don't just think it once and then it's there. You have to constantly choose. So I wish it was, oh, I have COVID. Well, I'll just get better. And then the next day you're feeling better. For me, it took 3 days, but whatever. But no, that's just, that is so fascinating. And I think about the last podcast as well, but mind over matter. I'm a huge fan of mind over matter. I think that mind is one of the most powerful things that we have. Okay, so one of my brother's friends, I was not his biggest fan. I thought he was just annoying, had to be the center of like attention all the time. He would downgrade others, make himself better. I just thought he was stupid. And I watched this video of how to break out of zip ties, and you use your hip and you go, or you can use your like shoelaces, or what. There's all these different ways. But I remember that I put this black zip tie on him, and we all know that the black ones are stronger than the white ones. And I was like, see, it's easy, boom, bust it. And I was like, yeah, the black one's super, super easy. And he's an idiot, so he doesn't know that the white ones are actually weaker. And he's like, yeah, okay. Well, bam. And then he broke it. And I was like, this isn't like this kid. I purposely was playing this like mind game. And I was like, okay, but now here is a white one. Now these ones are tougher. So do you want to do it? And he's like, well, is it tougher? Yeah, it's tougher. And I fed to him that it was tougher, so he believed it was tougher. And he couldn't do it. He actually started crying because he was stuck. His hands were bound, and he's like, I can't do it. And I was like, you idiot.
You got this.
I know. And then so finally I was like, I won't say his name, but we'll call him Joseph. And I was like, Joseph, I know you can do it. You want to know why? Because I have been lying to you. The white ones are actually easier than the black ones. You got the black one on his first try. Then he starts crying because I tricked him. But I really didn't like this kid. But anyway, looking back, that was really mean. But I didn't like it. But no, just right there, because he believes him, because his mind told him, this one's tougher, you can't do it. It couldn't do it.
So, a couple of points in your story there. One, going back to your original, with your dad saying, setting your mind to something, and you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it. Well, I think growing up, we think that means if you're smart enough, if you can figure things out. But I think putting your mind to it, but then also listening to, if you set your mind to it, if you, and essentially program your mind to it, then you can do whatever you want. So setting your mind, I think, is the part we forget. And but then with your story too, is a lot of people bring up the 4-minute mile. Forever, nobody thought that the 4-minute mile was possible.
They thought that you would die, that your heart would actually just like explode.
And so it just never happened. And then sometime in the 80s, one guy did it. But after he did that, tons of people were doing it, you know, and because they thought it was possible. Like, well, if one person can do it, obviously I can do it, or somebody else can do it, or whatever. And
now what, the world record mile is like 2 minutes and like 40-some seconds, right?
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
No, I know that it was 3 for a while, but I think somebody beat it in the most recent. I think it's like 2 minutes, like 48 seconds, I think is what it is. That
doesn't seem possible, but
Say fact check me, but I know that it is faster than 3 minutes. Is the world record now.
It's crazy. So so just even thinking that it's possible and observing other people can make you realize what is possible or could be possible for you. So
now, and kind of one thing that I do now, I like to work out. I work out a lot, but when I watch people work out, it's always like they can feel their muscles get weaker and they can't push it. For me, I have the exact opposite. I'm always pushing, then all of a sudden my muscles are like, oh, no, and it's kind of frustrating because most people compare, okay, is this enough weight or not, to like, how's their push going up? When really for me, it just kind of hits all at once. But that's besides the point. When I know I'm going to do a weight that I previously couldn't do all 10 reps on my fourth set, I will tell myself going in, I can and will do all 10 reps on this fourth set. And I usually end up doing more than I did them in my previous. Now, yes, muscles grow, muscles do this stuff, but why I bring that up also is because there have been times that I've caught myself being super tired and going, I don't know if I can do this one because I am so tired, and I end up doing less.
Yeah.
Because my mind has already told my muscles
that we're tired. Let's not do
we're
this.
tired. We can't do it.
Yeah.
And so there's just all this stuff leading into it. That mind can do that. Now, kind of, I don't want to necessarily like change it, but like as I'm watching videos and stuff, they talk about like all these like alpha, beta, and delta waves, like the waves that your kind of mind goes off, and I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Now, I don't want to like jump over if you have other stuff that you want to talk about.
No, I think it's good. I was kind of wanting to mention, how do we do this?
Yeah.
Because if the listeners are like, all right, this is great.
Yeah,
now,
but how
do I do it?
Yeah. Okay, great, go ahead.
Well, go ahead with your alpha.
Okay, yeah. So, they speak of like alpha, beta, delta waves, and the energy waves that our brain kind of puts out, and each one does different things. Unfortunately, I didn't write what all of them did. I was hoping that I did, but I didn't. I don't remember. But basically, there's some that promote sleep, and I think that's delta.
I think so.
Because babies and toddlers are full of delta brainwaves, and that's why they sleep all the time. I can't remember what alpha and beta do. I think alpha is the positive one. I feel really bad because I should have written this down, but
that's okay.
Anywho, but no, just like how different energy flowing through us and has this hormonal response, and so different energies create different hormones that promote different behavior.
Yeah.
And so maybe.
So one interesting thing to consider is, and I'm going to always throw in something spiritual or metaphysical.
Good. I love it.
But the law of attraction has gotten tons of interest over the last like 15 years or 20 years or whatever, and a lot of people think it's that it is just being positive and putting your thoughts out there and things like that. But it is interesting that this supports that, because your alpha, beta, delta waves are vibrations. They're wavelengths. And so spiritually speaking, people talk about raising your vibration and things like that. Well, how do you do that? With your thoughts. And so it is interesting, and your thoughts do influence your hormones and your muscles and your body responses and whether or not you sleep well and things like that. And then even from a physiological standpoint, that's affecting your reality. But also psychologically speaking, it is kind of the filter through which you see the world. So it's like people who assume the worst, they're going to see the worst. It's like if I asked you to look around the room real quick and tell me all the things you see, or just take a look around the room, and then I tell you to look again and tell me how many green things you see, you're going to start like, there's that plant, there's your phone case, there's that notebook, there's something that's turquoise, but I'm going to make it count. You start looking for those things when they were there before. But you couldn't, if I asked you to picture it, you probably couldn't point them out if you had your eyes closed. Like I said, take a look around the room, now close your eyes, tell me how many green things there are. But when you look again, you're looking for them, so you see them. That's
like when you buy a new car and all of a sudden you see that car.
Right.
Everywhere you go.
Because that's on your mind. That's what you see. There were that many drivers there before. But
you pass that same whatever car you get on the way to work every day, you just never notice it. But now that you drive Maserati.
Right.
Now you
look
see
how many
more.
there are.
I know. You're like, oh. So.
But the how to and different aspects, from scientists to psychologists to life coaches, say similar things as far as recognizing the thought. So a life coach that I follow is Brooke Castillo, and she has her model, is what she calls it, the model. But it's recognizing a feeling that you don't like, and what is the thought that is driving that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so being mindful of your thoughts, recognizing that that's creating the feeling in your body, and in your mind, and then taking steps to change that.
Mm-hmm.
Choosing a different thought, kind of reprogramming yourself to think something different each time. And your thoughts create your feelings will influence your actions, and then your actions create your circumstances. So, I mean, and that's entirely true, I think, from, if you want to try to get a new job, if you don't think that's even possible, that they're never even going to consider you, you're probably not even going to try. And if you do, you're probably not going to do well in the interview because you didn't think it was possible, and then, blame them or whoever that, well, I didn't expect to get it anyway.
Yeah, no, it's like that saying, those who say they can and those who say they can't are usually right.
Yeah.
It is. If you don't believe it, it'll never happen.
Right. Yeah. And then on the flip side, if you do think so, then you probably will, or at least you'll still have that positive mental outlook of, I didn't get that job or that promotion yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not that it isn't going to happen or it isn't possible, it just hasn't yet. And I think that's huge too.
I agree. Kind of, one thing that my family is always like, just in awe is how like, stuff tends to work out. Like,
mm-hmm.
They'll be like, I'll have ideas and they're like, yeah, it's not, I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm like, no, it'll work. And they're like, well, have you thought about all this and that? Well, I have now, and they're like, well, okay. But then somehow it always ends up like working out. Like there's things that have happened recently that they're like, we don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, I come back and then it happened, and then they're like,
yeah.
Well, how did that happen? And so I think it'd be nice to say because I thought it so.
Yeah. Well, there's also a level of faith.
Yeah. No.
And I mean, if you're tying it all together, faith is the expectation that something will happen, or that is possible. And Jesus says, "Look at the mountain and say, move, and the mountain will move if you believe it so."
Yeah.
And or even your prayers. Ask as if it's already happened.
Yeah.
So putting yourself in that mental space and believing that it's already been answered, that it's already happened, and it will be true.
What I love about that is act as if it's already happened, because faith takes action.
Mm-hmm.
We know as it is stated, faith without works is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when you're saying act as if it's already happened, you're already acting as if it happened. You're already anticipating as if it happened, but you're not putting your faith into action.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is lots of power in that.
Definitely.
Like, even if it's something that, like, even if in the end your prayer, your faith doesn't work out, you still put forth the action into it, and there's power. That's twice it's done. I gotta turn that alarm off. Okay. And I lost my train of thought.
Putting faith into action.
Oh, yes. And how, like, just in doing that itself, you're going to see things differently.
Mm-hmm.
The world might not physically change, but you will view it differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that will set things in motion that normally wouldn't have.
Right.
Kind of shot in the dark type thing. I was one time cooking in the kitchen, and this fly kept flying around. And I heard about I was thinking to myself, okay, if God is all-knowing, all-powerful, and God spoke, and the world was created, God spoke, and there was night and day,
Mm-hmm.
the power of language, the power of the word, like the spoken word, all that stuff. And so I was trying to think, okay, how does this happen? How can this thing? And so one day this fly was flying around, and usually you just swat flies, right? Well, one day I was in the kitchen, and I looked at it, and I said, fly, please fly out. You're bothering me, and I don't want to kill you.
Yeah.
And guess what that fly did? It's been flying around me for like 5-10 minutes, and guess what the fly did? I kid you not, the door was open, and it flew. As soon as I said that, it flew out that door.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
it blew my mind. And I was like, how the heck did that just happen?
See?
And so,
It's awesome.
And of course, I didn't just do it once and then I did it again.
Yeah.
Like, he says, the way that at that time the house was set up was the back door was like here and the kitchen was right here. So it was countertop, stove space, refrigerator, and the back door was like right here. And so I always cooked with the door open because at the time I lived in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always hot. The doors are always open, especially in the wintertime because then it's like 70, like 80 degrees. So there, that's cold.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere else it's not, but there it's cold, so it feels nice. And so flies, they would come in as I'm cooking like my eggs and my sausage and my hash browns. And so every morning, instead of swatting at flies, I would say, hey, now I will say it didn't happen every time.
Yeah.
But more times than not, sure enough, they would either fly out the door or go visit the person that I was living with.
Yeah.
That they would leave. Now, granted, there are times that they didn't do that and I had to end up swatting them. But more times than not, just telling them. I forgot where I was going with this. But, putting faith into action. And so just by saying, I have this idea, this faith, the faith that if God can do this, I can, right? And so I put it into action, I said it, and whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, and another interesting point with that too is the power of language.
Yeah.
And basically, I think I came across this researching for a different podcast, but that language is essentially a tool of thought.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is just to communicate our thoughts. And so that's really interesting. And so there is an intention behind our words. And so with that, there's the thought and hence the vibration. And, that transcends more than just our brains and our bodies. It's like the human energy field is like 8 feet out, I think, or 4 feet in all directions or something along those lines. Like
I didn't know that.
It extends way beyond our physical body.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's interesting with the fly. And I do think that animals can definitely pick up on our vibrations long before we even exhibit any kind of behavior.
Well, look at dogs.
Yeah.
I mean, dogs pick up people about to have like seizures, have diabetes, have, about to have like PTSD episodes. I mean, dogs know.
Yeah.
What's cool about that too, because I grew up with dogs and like, and just looking at different animals. Like we taught our dog don't run off to chase squirrels because you could get lost or whatever. But just one day we're out there and we see a squirrel in the backyard and I see him and he's like looking at it, and so I just looked over and I was like, get him, and he just took off.
He's like, all right, just tell me when.
Or just even there's times that I just looked at him, he looked at me and he's like, and he just goes. We didn't say anything, but we knew. And also that kind of goes like spouses and really close friends. Like you don't even have to say anything.
Right.
Like you can just look at each other and you already know. Like you just look at each other and you're just like, okay, we're like, let's do it.
Yeah.
No spoken language, but this transfer of vibration, of energy, of matter. And you are transferring matter, but how is that being done? Is it through these vibration waves, through these energy waves? Is it through particles? Is it through...
Yeah, it's really interesting because a lot of people will dismiss things like the spiritual side of it, faith and things like that, but then relying only on modern science, but modern science has only been around for like 400 years. So and that only measures the physical, but yet vibrational wavelengths are measurable. They are physical, and so there is evidence to show that these things actually do exist.
Yeah, I can't remember. I came across some videos about like vibration, and I can't remember who's doing it, but they're taking different vibrational waves and like sand on a board, and these vibrations are creating different patterns.
Yeah.
And it's very consistent what vibration that they use creating the same pattern.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, and it's like they will like put different types of sand, different grain, different boards, different, but the vibration creates that same pattern in all of it. And it's very like consistent. Yeah. And I'm watching that go on, dude. I have no idea what the heck's going on.
And also, I don't know if you've come across this, you probably have at some point, but I can't remember his name. He's a Japanese scientist from decades ago. but he did similar experiments with water droplets, and he would
freeze them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Play
Yes.
music or speak to them politely, speak to them negatively, and they froze in different patterns of crystals based on their on how they were spoken to, or what kind of music was playing. And even plants have been known to grow away from negative sounds, negative speech, negative words, and towards things that are more, pleasant, pleasant words, pleasant music, things like that. It's really interesting.
Yeah, no, that the water droplets freezing, forming different crystals, because spoken to differently, has it kind of hurts my brain to think about, because I'm going so far into it. I don't know if it's making sense or not, or if just right now, because I don't know enough, my brain can't wrap around it. Because I think when your brain hurts because you think too much, just because your brain just can't wrap around it. There's not the neurologic connections that are just there. But anyway, because that means that on a molecular level, a vibration, but not just a vibration, but a thought, a form of communication, a thought, a matter, different form of matter, impacted that matter differently. Now, how does that happen? I think there is a spiritualness in it, in a spiritual realm that affects. Now, scientists, they like to block that out, and no, there's something else to it. But I truly do think that if a lot of the science world, I'm not trying to call them out or be rude or anything, but if they would embrace more of the spiritual side, the spiritual realm, the spiritual dimension, whatever they want to call it, a lot more things would start to make sense.
Yeah, and actually, nowadays, a lot of the science is explaining or coming back to spiritual phenomena.
Yeah. And
I feel like, and I came up to this conclusion a while back, but I was like, just because we can explain it doesn't mean it's any less remarkable or any less spiritual. Just because we have evidence of something physically taking place doesn't mean that there is an ethereal component that is interwoven throughout everything. I mean, what is dark matter? What is like they say, an atom is 90% or more, 99%, just empty space. And so what's all in between? And they thought it was empty, but they're finding out that no, it's not actually empty. There is a substance there. Greg Braden calls it divine matrix. Other people call it I can't think of it, but there is, there's the dark matter, there's antimatter, yeah, these different things, they're giving names, but it's super interesting. And there's Nassim Haramein, he's a physicist who was talking about the double slit experiment. And so they shoot these photons at a wall, but it has to go through a split, or there's two slits, and so they're trying to measure which one it's going through each time. They noticed that when they put a camera to measure or to watch them, that they behave differently than when there's no camera. And so the consensus has been that the camera, the act of observing these photons, changes their behavior, as if the photons have a consciousness. And I'm not saying that they don't, but they're saying there's a consciousness, they're behaving differently, they know when they're being observed. Well, Nassim and one of his colleagues, and I kind of feel this is more accurate, is that it's not that entity, that photon, is conscious, is that they're flowing through consciousness. And so if you view it more like a pool of water with all these ping pong balls on top, and that ping pong ball represents the photon, you push it through this slit. By placing a camera in the pool of water is the consciousness, the matrix, then it's going to behave differently, because that camera is changing the environment through which it flows.
I agree. And I think too, just to have you ever been just looking at someone, all of a sudden they look up and look directly at you, and you create this eye connection, and you're like, how did that person know to? Because they could be over there. I've even done it. I'll be eating or whatever, sitting off, and I'll just look up, bam.
Yeah.
And at work, I'll be just like staring off in like different direction. It happens all the time because I'll be there just like staring off, like trying to do stuff or whatever. And then my coworker diagonal from me looks right up and looks at me every time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like,
yeah.
He probably thinks, man, this kid's always looking at me. It's like, well, I'm just staring off in that direction.
Yeah. Or you look up at the exact same moment,
Yeah.
and then they think that you're always staring at them.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. And I used to like play a game with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like in church, you know, sitting there, I'd look at someone and I would think to myself, like, turn and look at me. Or I'd think,
oh, I've done that too.
Yeah. And then they do.
It works.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the crazy thing. It works.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so yes, back to what I was saying though. Holistic healers. I have met quite a few. I've even like messed around with it. And this one guy I met, he does chakras, and you have like so many different like chakras, but he uses chakras to like fix people. And he brought up this concept as well, and it's like it's all like energy, and it's funny because I met another lady who used like chakras as well, and he said, yeah, light travels clockwise, and to close light you do it counterclockwise. And I told her, and she's like, yeah, that guy's stupid. The light just travels, okay? He what he's doing, he's just guiding it in a way to travel. Anywho, but our body is putting out energy. Something that he taught me is each digit, each finger is like, your body is like a battery. You have a positive and a negative, and it goes positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. And so when you do this, negative on negative. So like magnets, they're going to repel. So the energy isn't transferring. It's they both going this way. But now there's this connection between my body and myself, because now the negative and the positive, there's now this current. And so I can use my fingers. Like actually, this one girl taught me this. I don't know if I can do it now. I used to be able to, but I can stop your nerves from like the energy in your nerves from going into your arm. All I have to do is take my middle finger and just go down like this on it, and then when you try to raise your arm with any like pressure on it, you'll be like and then to turn it back on, I get my index finger and I just go up, and all of a sudden you can use it. Now is that placebo or not? I've come across people when I was doing it just for fun, as like a party trick to see if it could work, that they would like they could never get the same raise, but they could get it. It just wasn't as easy. And so like I don't know. And like my dad, not that he doesn't believe, he's just always like skeptical, and he's always like,
that's me. I'm like, I want that to be true, but
I see, and I'm right there with you. That's why I'm always doing like experiments and like testing stuff, because and then I try to dive deeper into what is this thing. But I also saw that too, and so there is this energy, and I agree that our eyesight, just so we talk about looking at people, there is this energy field going through it. This type of matter, because everything is made up of matter, is flowing from me to you. So I'm looking at you in the eyes. So the matter flowing from my eyes going into your eyes. The eyes are the window into the soul, and it's the gateway into the soul. So my matter is flowing into you, and vice versa. And so as a ping pong ball, as a particle travels through it, it's going to act different.
Right.
This makes sense.
Yeah. And then if somebody walks in between your gaze from you to someone else, then you kind of snap out of it.
Yes.
Like there was an interference there.
Yeah, like actually yesterday I was just kind of zoning out, and the manager, all of a sudden he started doing this, and oh what? And he just I was zoned out. But I broke it.
I think it's necessary sometimes.
So we've kind of gone on this little tangent here. It's been fun. I like it. But back to thoughts shaping our reality. You have lots of written down, and I want to hear all about it.
Well, again, like I said, I think there's epigenetics is another. Bruce Lipton is. You may have come across him in research and everything, because he's kind of tightly woven with Joe Dispenza. But he has a lot of research on epigenetics, and so that's even on a molecular level, on our DNA level, of certain genes expressing, certain being repressed, whether or not, you know, we heal from different things, how we develop, things like that. And so a lot of his research does go into environment as well as genetics, because a lot of people, you know, put things off of as like, oh, well, it's just genetic, it just runs in our family. Or, you know, why did this happen? Well, it's genetic. Well, my, you know, so-and-so and so-and-so never had that. Why do I have it? And there's a thought level activation with that as well. There is an environment that will, you know, play a role. Obviously, if you grow up in, say, the Great Depression, then even though you have the same genetics as your parents, you're going to develop differently because you didn't have the same resources. But then, like even twins.
I was actually about to bring that up to see if you've seen that, I guess, research thing there. But yeah, they took twins and put them in two different, like one a really wealthy place, one a very poor place, and the one that was healthier, her teeth were like straighter, she got less sick, she was more vibrant. The one that grew up in a poor area, she needed braces in order to get straight teeth, and it was just this whole whack thing.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There was another research, another study done the reverse, where they were assuming that twins brought up in the same household and they developed different I can't remember if it was mental health issues or physical health issues, but they were saying that there's no connection with genetics to this because we use twins and whatever, and they grew up in the same household. But that's still assuming that those twins had the same experience growing up, which is not ever true. No one's experience is the exact same. Even, you know, one of my friends now has she's a godmother to two twins, and she says one twin is very attached to their dad, the other is not so much. She's more independent. So you know, and she'll occasionally want attention from her mom, but she's just more independent. And so even in that same household, same family, same genetics, same DNA, they have different experiences.
Yeah.
So
I know lots of twins. My high school had like a bunch of twins, and 3 sets of twins I was friends with. And yeah, I mean, Jake and Cole would probably as when they were younger, in middle school they were about the same, but high school you really saw them split. And Jake was more of like class clown, rowdy, whatever. And that's how they both were in middle school. They like fed off of each other. In high school, Jake became the more like just like class clown, always in trouble. And Cole was like, yeah, I just got over it. Actually, like grades and sports are my thing now and stuff. And so yeah, it was just interesting. There was then Carly and Jessica. They're probably the most similar alike, except back to one was very social and one was not. Like that was kind of the difference between the two, because like they liked the same stuff. They actually both did like the same sports. It's just one was like, yeah, I do the sports, but I just like when we're done, I don't really like to socialize. So the other one did. And then there was Mackenzie and Alexis, and one loved drama, just loved it, and then the other one was like, and so yeah.
That's this could be another podcast topic too, but that also makes me think about the personas that we take on. Even though their DNA, their genetics are identical, they are still two individual people, but also their how they view themselves in the world, back to their thoughts, and how they think about themselves and how they want to, or not even want to, but how they are perceived in the world is going to shape their personality and how other people view them. So it all folds in on itself, you know.
Yeah. One thing that like those personalities, those personas, like where do they come from?
Yeah.
You know, I think that before we lived physically on earth, we lived spiritually, and so I think that has to do with it. We learned and grew then and developed personalities. The same way that a child, as it grows, develops a different personality. So I think we developed one and that's transferred over. Same spirit, just in a body now. So I think it's from that, but like, what causes that? And
Yeah.
so it's all, what? It all compounds and builds on itself.
And that can definitely be another podcast topic. I think probably kind of wrapping this one back up, getting back to the how to more shape your reality through your thoughts is first of all, becoming mindful of your thoughts. And if you need to identify your emotions, your feelings first, that's a good way to get started. Is I'm feeling a certain way. I'm angry at whoever at work. So and so made me feel bad. Well, they didn't make you do anything, but aside from that, but I feel a certain way. Well, what's the thought attached to that feeling? And then the belief that's behind that thought, and choosing to think something differently. And a lot of times it can be polar opposite, thinking I'm not worthy of getting that job, to flipping it and say I'm totally worthy to get that job. I'm totally worthy. And but I mean, recognizing it first is the first step, and then deciding something different, and then you can take action. People forget about the action, but you got to take action. It's a lot of work, and but it's worth it. And and I think it's a lot of work to reprogram your brain. Like I've said in other podcasts, like I think it's the first 7 years of your life, we're in that alpha state, where we're just absorbing the things around us. We're watching mom and dad and how they interact with us, and how they, if they smile if we cry, or if we don't, or whatever, we learn what to do and what not to do, all before first grade. And that's 95% of our subconscious programming as adults that's running in the background is based on what we learned before first grade. And so it takes a lot of work to redo that, but it is worth it. And I've done a lot myself, but again, it's an ongoing thing. It's recognizing those thoughts when they come up, and like, no, I'm going to think something else. I'm going to look at this differently.
I know people who don't always know what they're feeling, and so your step-by-step process, I 100% agree. But to help, I think for the people who don't know what they're feeling all the time, what I think they should do is find a way to just express it, whether it's through art, music, physical activity, whatever, because you might not know what you're feeling because you haven't learned how to express it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think once you find a way to express it, like I know people that speaking it, they can't do it, but when they write it down, they're like, I couldn't think of these words just talking about it, but when I started writing, then it came.
Yeah.
And so,
or creating art or music or whatever, like you said, or even kickboxing. Physical activity. And so, but yeah, I do think that will help people either sort things out emotionally, or it will help them bring awareness to their stuff. Even especially with art, like art journaling has gotten big, and I think that is awesome way to you can just put whatever out is out, just get started. Whatever comes out, and then years later you look back at it and you're like, okay, I see what was happening here. And I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back now I can see. And that will help you when you're moving forward.
I agree. I think I like to draw. I don't think I'm the best drawer. There's videos. As we're looking at there's this video of this guy, like, you might think that you can't draw, but I can prove you wrong in 30 seconds, whatever. And I tried it. It didn't turn out as good as his, so I'm working on it. But no, I do think art is one of those things that, like, I genuinely do enjoy art and seeing other people's, because that is a creative side of them expressing, even down to like the way that their brush strokes look. You can see where they frustrated, where they patient, where they just in the brush stroke, because you can see, sometimes you can see the grains of the brush. They're pushing hard, which granted bad brushes can do that too, but there's all this stuff that you can pick up on. But no, after it begins with recognizing the thought, and then choosing. I think a lot of life is just choosing. And there's power in willingly choosing. One, it makes you more conscious of it, but also it makes you responsible for it.
Yeah.
Then once you're responsible for it, you begin to act differently. I think I wish that a lot more people chose instead of just followed.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot more would get done, and a lot of the problems in the world would be solved if people chose and not just followed. So pushing blame. And I think that's the appeal to not choosing for yourself, is you can push blame because you're not responsible.
Right.
You can push off responsibility and not be accountable.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's gonna collapse.
Yeah.
Societies. And
it might be easier now, but it's gonna make things more difficult as a long run. And I was just looking at one of my notes here that I wrote down, that you do not have to be a victim of your circumstances, and more importantly, you do not have to be a victim of your own thoughts. Because a lot of people say, well, that's just how I was raised, or that's how I grew up, that's the church I grew up in, or whatever. But you still have the choice to recognize that and think something differently. You can choose to not believe that you're going to be poor forever.
Yeah.
You can choose to not believe that, your family, that's just the way things are, You can do something different.
No. Yes, your circumstances have something to do, and yes, the way you were raised has something to do. But when you use it as blame, victim mentality, if you don't like it, take responsibility and recognize, choose, and act.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
And act. The last.
No, you have to act, because if you don't act, you're doing nothing.
Right.
Then the faith is dead.
Yeah. Even as much as I would like to sit and meditate and bliss out all day, and but nothing's going to get done doing that. That's important, yes, but action. Yeah. We live in this physical world, and nothing's going to happen without the action.
I agree. In a physical world, physical things need to happen, and that comes through action. So, but all in all, thoughts can change the world.
Yeah. Your
thought can change your world.
Absolutely.
You just have to recognize, choose, act.
Yeah.
Well, that's how it's done.
I think that's a good closing point. Recognize, choose, and act.
Yeah. Do those things, and you can change your world, and you can change other people's as well. Well, awesome. Morgan, I loved it. That was good. That was good. It was
fun.
Can't wait for next week.
Yeah.
Have a good one. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.